It is my pleasure to welcome Stewart Copeland to Noise11.com. It's been a long time since you've been down under, Stewart.
Yeah. And I've been feeling down under ever since.
Well, it's good that we're going to get you down here. Tell me about the tour and the spoken word tour. What does it entail? What do you go through? Is it the entire Stewart Copeland story?
Well, not the entire story, just the best bits. And wild tales of course, the police, of course. Yeah, I get hung, drawn, and quartered if I don't go there. But also, chasing giraffes across the Serengeti, chasing royalty across the polo fields of Cirencester, chasing conductors across the stage in with a Chicago Symphony and all kinds of adventures. Film scoring, my years in Hollywood. Oh my God, I got some very strange tales to tell about that.
Well,
And one of the weirdest is the family I came from. My father was a skullduggerer in chief with the CIA in the Arab world, and that's where I grew up in Beirut, Lebanon.
You've got an amazing story. The part I want to start with was Klark Kent, 1980.
Yes.
I have the 10-inch on green vinyl sitting around here somewhere. Klark Kent was it leftover songs that the police didn't use?
Pretty much, yeah. Songs that were just too puerile for Sting to sing. And by the way, he just coming out with much better songs which suited his persona and his voice, and so there's no problem there. It's every time he would pull out a song, he would, yes, let's play that, and another mind would go thud on the floor. But that's okay. They found another life, another world, a more appropriate setting, and so all is well.
I had pretty much the same conversation with George Harrison when he was alive, talking about all his songs that used to just fall on the ground when the John and the Paul ones came along.
Well, he had it. I got off easy compared to George Harrison.
Yeah, well,
he had two of them to deal with.
Yeah, he did too. Don't Care. That was a minor hit in the UK. Did people know you were Klark Kent at that point?
Just a tiny little nibble at the bottom of the charts there. But, and I'm glad you brought that up, it was the first time that any of the three blonde heads were on national TV. And, I'm so glad you brought this up, because there I am at the front of the stage miming, pretending, as Klark Kent. And behind me, my band are, one Gordon M. Sumner, a.k.a. Sting, and Andy Summers. And as I never miss an opportunity to remind old Stingo, your first time on national TV, dude, come on, give it up. You were wearing a gorilla mask and miming to my bass lines. Ha, 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 ha. Life does have its little rewards.
Were they also on the record?
No. The record was totally one-man thing. I played the guitar, bass, drums, even a bit of piano. And the worst part was that I actually sang the thing. Now, I'm not a guy who sings in the shower. I don't sing in the car. Nobody wants to hear me singing. But nobody else would sing the song, so I got on the mic. And by some miracle, Her Majesty, the BBC, Radio 1, added it to the playlist equals hit. And there I am. And the police were starving at the time. We'd gotten nowhere. And as a result of Klark Kent having this little tickle of the charts, that's when the record company, A&M, signed up the police and said, we better get the whole, Klark Kent and his band. And then the wheel of history turned.
Wow. The story of when Stewart was once a pop star.
No, Klark Kent was the pop star. I was just some guy on the street that nobody knew.
True. You had quite a few songs on the various albums. Let's start with the Outlandish to More album and Peanuts on that record.
Yeah. I think that I had some other lyric, as often was the case. Sting's a different guy for me. He just has a different worldview. We are not birds of a feather with great admiration and mutual love. We recognize we are not the same guy. And so he was able to replace my puerile lyric with something a little more sophisticated along the lines of Peanuts. I'm not even sure what his more sophisticated lyric were, because I bang shit at the back of the stage and I don't even listen to the lyrics. All I know is he rewrote the lyrics and got half the publishing for my song.
Yes, and there's a trick that he learned to pay back on Diddy many, many years later. Regatta de Blanc, this album, you were
Yep.
quite active as a songwriter on this album. Contact, Does Anyone Stare, on Any Other Day. There was also Regatta de Blanc, A Death Wish,
Yeah.
attributed to you as a co-write. Was the band getting more and more involved in the group songwriting?
Well, we were stuck for material on the second album, which is why it's my favorite album, because we had to make up a lot of it on the fly. And, you know, the old saying in show business is you've got your whole life to write your first album and 6 months to write your second album. And so that's where we were. Our material was on the first album, then we're touring. Whoa, time to record another album. Anybody got any songs? So I guess the bar was lowered so that more of my songs snuck in there.
Well,
By the way, I'm always real happy because whenever Sting pulled out a song, let's play that. And I enjoyed writing songs. That's not my main musical output, but mostly the songs that the Police didn't play ended up somewhere else that I got great benefit.
So on this album, we had Bombs Away and The Other Way of Stopping, and then we get to Ghost in the Machine, and
Yeah.
we've got Rehumanize Yourself, Darkness on that, and Synchronicity. I hope I'm holding them up the right way.
You know, darkness was the one lyric of mine that Sting could identify with.
That says a lot about the man, doesn't it?
Well, we can have a little snicker amongst ourselves, can't we?
Yeah.
Darkness.
Darkness, yes. Miss Gradenko on Synchronicity. Have you
Yeah.
ever performed all of your songs from the Police in a solo show as one set list?
No, I've performed some of them. I've performed Miss Gradenko with orchestra, full orchestra. Does Everyone Stare? I've played that mostly with orchestra. And I've done Does Everyone Stare with Gizmo Drum as well, with Mark King singing it, which was interesting. And no, I haven't done them all. I've lost track of which ones are which. But a lot of the material, you know, for instance, when we were on Montserrat, and we all would go home and try and write songs for the band because we'd like to have our songs played by the Mighty Police. And Sting would insist on it. He didn't want to be the only person doing homework while the rest of us skived off. So if we showed up without any songs, he would, we'd get an earful. Not that he had any intention of playing these other songs that Andy and I came up with. But we did our best, but he's just such a great songwriter that we always gravitated towards his songs. And also, I'm a different guy. I don't think, I got nothing in my heart that really matches his persona of what he does. He runs quiet and deep. I'm noisy and shallow. So shoot me, but my material, for instance, for Synchronicity, that ended up on the Police cutting room floor. Oh, well, I went and used it in my first film score with Francis Coppola on Rumblefish, and I got a Grammy nomination and a Golden Globe nomination for this material that didn't really work for the Police. The Police benefited because we played the songs that did work for the Police with Sting singing them. And I did okay by getting, accolades in the film world and starting a whole new career on the basis of that material.
Well, absolutely. You're a drummer in a rock and roll band. Francis Ford Coppola is doing a movie, Rumblefish. It's your first soundtrack as an untested Hollywood composer. So why did he gravitate to you?
Because he's an adventurous man. His thing is that he spots talent. And this is true I've learned with most of his films, he spots talent and gives them a long rope. And that's what he did with Rumblefish. I think it was one of his sons who said, "Hey, this movie's about rhythm. You should call that Police guy." And so he did. And we got along famously. And I ended up getting the gig to score that movie, which I mostly played by hand. Mallet instruments, xylophone and guitar. I'm a frustrated guitar-based drummist, as Klark Kent can attest. But one day, he turns around and he says, this is going great. This is great. Love it, love it, love it. But we need strings. We need some emotion here. We need some sweet, beautiful, emotional stuff. We need strings. Yes, sir, Mr. Coppola, Mr. Francis. Yep, I'm on it. Yep, strings. So I call up the contractor and I say, director wants strings. And the contractor says, great. Okay, how many? I don't know. Strings, plural, many, several. Let's go with lots of strings. And so, come the day, I actually did study music in college, and so I could write a chart out. And I hadn't seen, by the way, and I studied music in college, but when I got to play in a rock band, I never saw another sheet of music for the entire stint of my professional career up until that day. Mr. Coppola says he wants strings, so I had to go out and buy some paper with staves on it and write these chords. And the string players come in, and a couple things. First of all, they play it in a twinkling. They're done. And like, wow, that's really efficient. You mean I put it on the page and they just play it? No debate, no chivying up, no. And the second thing is, wow, that's so pretty. And that sounds so beautiful. And thus began my love affair with the symphony orchestra, which persists to this day. I'm still writing, due to Francis Coppola, I'm now writing opera, for God's sake.
But is that what led to Police Deranged with the orchestra?
Yes, absolutely. That is absolutely right. In fact, Francis Coppola saved me from the police. It was a hellhole. Everybody knows that we didn't enjoy the ride in the last few years. As I've described it, it's like a Prada suit made out of barbed wire. And we didn't we've had band therapy since, and we now understand all this stuff. And we now understand our deep admiration for each other and such. But at the time, it was very hard. And so when I went over to do a film score with Francis Coppola, and he was just this warm, loving embrace, and I got to play all the instruments myself. No debate, no dissing, no shade. And so that was fantastic. And I thought, that's it. I want to do this. This is what I want to do. So we can blame Francis Coppola for breaking up the police.
I thought it was Australia, because you came down here, did an Australian tour, you went home and broke up.
Oh, we'd already broken up by that time. We just had to finish the tour. And what a great Melbourne. Oh, I'm still picking confetti out of my teeth. That was one of the best. But the last Police show back there in 1984 was the best show we had played. I mean, it was just a brilliant night. Melbourne just lit up for us.
I did enjoy the last one at the MCG. Last time you played here at the MCG, when you got back together again about 15 years ago.
Yeah. That was, we actually did kind of, there were moments in the reunion tour where we were at each other's throats, but then we had band therapy. And I'd heard that the Rolling Stones had band therapy, and well, if they can do it, let's do it. And there were two guys on this tour. The Police reunion tour was the best tour in anyone's living memory. The tickets sold out, stadiums around the world sold out in 20 minutes. The catering people were having volunteer service. The promo lady was having, everyone's having the best tour ever, except for two guys. Two of the blonde heads were grumpy all the time and screaming at each other all the time. And I'd figured, because the thing is that when we're not playing music, I hadn't sussed this out until later, but we actually over dinner, we'd be laughing and we get along great, actually. Maybe because we're such opposite types. He's very quiet and I'm very noisy, so why are we angry all the time? So we had band therapy, and we figured out what our differences are, which are completely honorable differences. It wasn't a matter of ego or jealousy or anything like that. It was due to the fact that we make music for different reasons. We listen to different music. I don't think Sting has any Slipknot or AC/DC on his playlist. And I certainly don't have any Jose Feliciano on mine. We make music for different reasons. We listen to different, we make it differently. And it's not because the other guy's a jerkwad. It's because he's on a different mission. He's got this idea, and I guess it sort of makes sense, that he writes songs that are about something. They tell a story or a philosophical viewpoint or what. Hey, look, I bang shit. I'm at the back of stage banging shit, and I don't care what I never listen to the lyrics. I'm playing the groove. I'm playing the groove, not the song. And if there's a song, sure, the song is there to make the band look cool, not the other way around. Yeah. Now, if you're the songwriter, you might take a different view. And these views are gonna clash when we get to play music together because we're both on different missions. That's why we drove each other nuts.
Well, speaking of playlists, I have Peter Gabriel So on my playlist. You're involved in two songs on that. I think Red Rain was one of the ones for you, and Big Time. Tell me about working with Peter Gabriel. How'd that come about?
Well, that was completely improvisational. And when I was working with him, well, we were just goofing off actually in his studio near Bath, and he hadn't written the songs yet. And so I never heard the song. So when the record came out and he sent me a couple, platinum discs, I got platinum disc from Peter Gabriel album. And I had to check the liner notes to see what tracks I'm on. Because I couldn't hear, because when I was there, we were just doing grooves. And he hadn't written the songs yet. He wrote the song, he sort of assembled the grooves that we did with Tony Levin and me and him, and then wrote a song on top of it. And so by the time I hear the record, I don't, I had to, like I say, I had to check the liner notes to see what tracks I was on.
What about Roger Daltrey and Under a Raging Moon? 11 drummers on one song.
You got me there.
Oh,
was I one of those drummers?
You're one of the drummers, yeah, on a Roger Daltrey album. Yeah.
How did I do?
Well, you did 1 out of 11, if I have to give you a score, because the other ones were Zach Starkey, Carl Palmer, Roger Taylor, Martin Chambers from the Pretenders.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Good. Definitely in exalted company there, but I have no recollection of that at all. Yeah. What's the record?
It was called Under a Raging Moon, 1985.
Really? And he's got
you credited as one of the drummers out of 11 drummers on one track.
What the hell does the track sound like with 11 drummers?
Well, everyone gets a little piece. I can get his
point. Okay, now Roger Daltrey is acclimated to a lot of drums. He was in a band that contained Keith Moon, for God's sake. How are you going to replace Keith Moon but with 11 drummers?
That's very Spinal Tap, isn't it?
Really, I got to get this record. Check it out. I can't wait to hear what it sounds like with 11 drummers.
So we've got you coming down here in January 2026. Have I said too much? Well, what you haven't said in this interview, you will say on stage when you get to Australia and New Zealand.
Yeah, probably too much. But you know what? I think down in Oz, I think the Australians can handle it.
Good to see you. Good to talk to you. I can't wait to see you down here in January and all the things that you have to say. Australia 2026, New Zealand 2026, Stewart Copeland at noise11.com.
Well, thanks for listening.